Part 4, the Golden Calf and 2 copies of the Commandments. As we already mentioned, God was talking to Moses on top of Mount Sinai. They were told about and were given a copy of those 10 great rules from God, which were written down onto 2 stone tablets. Now at the same time that all this was happening, the rest of the Israelites were down at the base of the mountain, and they didn't really want to just continue to sit around and wait for Moses to get back from their trip to the top of the mountain, found in Exodus chapter 32, verse 1. From that same verse, we can see that they, the Israelites, wanted to make up a false and a fake god out of any gold that they actually took from the Egyptians when they left, found in Exodus chapter 32, verses 2 and 3. All of that was simply due to the, quote, reasoning from the Israelites that they didn't know what had become of their leader from the bondage, Moses, and didn't know if he was alive or if he was dead. So because of that, they decided to make a false god to worship. However, after this golden idol was made, the Israelites decided to worship it in Exodus chapter 32, verse 4. All of the gold that was given to be made into this new idol was made into the shape of a golden calf. However, they went a step further when it came to worshiping this idol. They began to give it credit for saving them from that bondage, which, as we were talking about before, was the plan and the execution from God and Moses. None of that was done by some false god that Aaron and the Israelites had just made shortly before. We can begin to see this false idol worship and celebration of their bondage to this fake idol found in Exodus chapter 32, verses 5 through 6. The Israelites made it so that their new God was not only as important but received all the same things that the true God of the Israelites would have gotten. This kind of blatant disregard for God is something that He does not like. Our God is a jealous God. God knew of what was happening with this false god and idol that was being worshipped while He was talking to Moses, found in Exodus chapter 32, verse 7. We can even see that the way that God tells Moses about this and says that they, the Israelites, have corrupted themselves. Webster defines this word corrupt as to alter from the original or correct form or version. When applying this definition into this verse, it means that the Israelites knew the right thing, which was serving God, but instead they altered from that path and instead made themselves a fake idol to serve. We can see this definition being played out over Exodus chapter 32, verse 8. All of this made it so that both God and Moses were mad with anger at the Israelites for what they were doing, found in Exodus chapter 32, verse 11, and also in verse 19. This kind of reaction that we might have when we turn our back for like 2 seconds and everything starts falling apart, this is how they were feeling at this time. Moses had gone to go and to receive the 10 Commandments from God, and while this was happening, the Israelites had switched to a false god to worship instead. While Moses had come down from the mountain into the camp of the Israelites, he was able to fully begin to see what was going on. He got the full picture of all of the idol worship that was going on, and it made him so mad that he took the 2 tablets that the commandments were written on and threw them to the ground in anger and broke them. Exodus chapter 32, verse 19. The same tablets that God had given him that contained the 10 Commandments were the ones that Moses had thrown down in anger and broke them because of the sinful actions that both Moses and God had seen the Israelites performing. Moses even went a step further to make them pay for their mistake that they made by worshiping these false idols found in Exodus chapter 32, verse 20. He not only destroyed the idol, but then he also made them literally drink it as a form of punishment for what they had done. This worked for teaching them a lesson on how idol worship is bad. However, because Moses had broken the tablets that contained the commandments, they needed to do something to write down and to remember what it was that God had given to them. So as we can find out in Exodus chapter 34 verse 1, God told Moses that they needed to make 2 more tablets that were exactly like the original first ones that were now broken. Listening to God's command, Moses did exactly what he was told and made 2 more tablets of stone to bring them to God on Mount Sinai, found in Exodus chapter 32 verse 2 and also in verse 4. Moses was with God for another 40 days and nights, found in Exodus chapter 32 verse 27. After all that time had passed, they finished writing down the 10 Commandments on those new pieces of stone, which leads us to next week's topic on why the 10 Commandments are important to God.